So, by the way, Jock sends his massive regards. He would be here. He, of course, has a great reason because he's actually in Sydney. So he's in my hometown teaching the mastermind, and so let's get on with it. My intention for the next 30 minutes with you is, as I promised you last week, if you've joined me last week, I'm actually going to share with you information directly from the second level of NLP, which is from Mastercrack. And I do hope that you have a pen and paper handy, because tonight I'm going to share with you a technique, and I think it might be cool for you to actually have a reflection of the questions for yourself and do the technique with yourself first, so that you can really start to understand it in that way, and then you'll be ready to go out there and use the process with other people. Okay, great. So just wanted to recap some things that if you did join me last week, you may find that you will be familiar with the concepts. And if this is new to you too, please bear with me, because it is a recap and a revision, and I do need to, as you can appreciate, in the 30 minutes, I will need to breeze through some concepts. Please ask questions, and if I can't answer the question for you tonight, it may be more appropriate for us to have a discussion outside of the webinar. I'm always happy to be via email and all of that, so just you send me through your question and I'll endeavour to answer it for you. Okay, so here we have on your screen the NLP communication model, and this explains how we do what we do. So it's that universal question, why do we do what we do? Some people may have some stranger behaviours in our perception. We see some, with our curiosity that we have, we go, that's interesting. Why is someone behaving like that? Or even for ourselves, we might have some behaviours that we're doing that we're not quite understanding about ourselves, and we're thinking, for example, why am I always going for that chocolate bar? Why am I eating too much chocolate? And this model is, by the way, that's totally reject that if that's not the case for you. That was just an example. So you can tell your unconscious mind that wasn't for you, that was about somebody else. And this beautiful model explains the simplicity of our human complexity, which is an absolute paradox, but I love it. So here we go. We perceive our external world through our 5 senses. So we see things, we hear, we touch, we taste, and we smell. And a Hungarian psychologist by the name of Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, in an amazing book called Flow, he postulated for us that in every second we are actually bombarded with 2 million bits of information per second. So, for example, before I brought this to your attention, did you notice, or were you thinking about the feeling of your bum against the chair? Or your feet? Are your feet on the floor? Or were you paying attention to the tastes in your mouth and the things that you can smell? Were you paying attention to the light that's coming to your face, in what direction? Before you hear me say this, are there sounds outside of the room that you're in right now that you are currently deleting? Or are there sounds outside of your house that before you weren't noticing? And these are just some examples of the fact that we actually have 2 million bits of information per second bombarding our senses. And for us to be able to function day by day, we can only take in 134 bits out of that possible 2 million. So what we do at the unconscious level is we have these things called filters. And what they do for us is they delete information, they distort information, and they generalize. So without going into too much detail, because I'm sorry, unfortunately I don't have time for that, but basically what we do is we delete, we distort, and we generalize, which means that we're left, it means that we've deleted 1,999,866, I did that by memory, 1,999,866 bits. Out of that possible 2 million, we're only taking in 134. So the question is, what did we just delete, distort, and generalize to get the 134? And between us all, we're perceiving the world differently. And that's because we're choosing to take in different information out of our 134. And so, what are our filters and how does this happen? Well, what we have here is we have time, space, matter and energy. That's a concept we learn at Master Prac because that's talking a lot about quantum linguistics and quantum physics. It's really fascinating stuff. Really, really cool. And we have a filter also, which is our language. So the language in which we speak, whether that be English or Mandarin or all of these different languages that we have. I've actually had students in my class who can back me up on this when they say they actually perceive the world differently because they need to think differently when they think in different languages. So it's really, really interesting. Now, we each perceive our external world too because of the memories that we have. And then we've got another filter called decisions. So the decisions that we decide about ourselves and about the world is also going to have an effect on how we perceive different external events. I'm going to give you an example of this in a moment so you can have this experience. And then we all have meta-programs. So meta-programs is just another word for personality types. So you may have heard of some personality types like introvert, extrovert. These are the Myers-Briggs personality types. We've got judger, perceiver, intuitor, feeler. Do you think in big picture? Are you one that loves ambiguity and thinking really big ideas? Or are you a person that loves the detail and really focuses on the detail? Well, these are all examples of meta-programs. So they're going to have a massive effect, you can appreciate, on how we perceive our external world. And then we have our values, beliefs, and attitudes. And this is what I'm going to share with you tonight. So I'm really excited and I feel I'm being really generous because, these are filters that we talk about at the Master Prac level. And I'm going to give you the technique on how you can actually elicit someone's values, find out more about their beliefs and attitudes. And you can start to see here, I'm sharing this model with you because what it's showing you is that when we make change with any of these filters, well then we're having a really profound, and massive change on someone's hard drive, the way they're going to internalize the world, and consequently it's going to absolutely change their behaviors and results that they have. Okay, so what happens is, so we've received an external event through our five senses. In a second, because our unconscious mind is doing this all unconsciously for us and really quickly, it goes through our filters, we've deleted, distorted and generalized, and what we have is an internal representation. So what this means, remember, there's some sounds coming up by the way, so just check in with your speakers. So we get pictures, we get sounds in our mind, so this is all in our mind. We get feelings, and we may have some tastes, smells, and of course we may have self-talk, and we all know that we have self-talk. So I'm going to give you an example. Okay, so I want you to just stop. Oh, that was a beautiful sound, wasn't it, when I said stop? This is all our internal experience, by the way. So I want you to stop, and I want you to close your eyes. And in a moment, I'm going to say something, which is going to be the external event, because you're hearing my voice, and you're going to think of something. And before you know it, you're going to run this idea through your filters. And what's going to happen is you're going to have a picture in your head. You could have sounds. You may have some feelings come up. You may have some tastes and smells as well. And you're going to have some self-talk. So what I want you to do is pay attention to what happens inside of your mind when you hear what I'm about to say. Okay, so I want you now to stop and think of your first kiss. I hope this is okay with everyone. So go ahead and think about your first kiss. And pay attention to the pictures, sounds, feelings, taste, smells possibly, and your self-talk. And what's going on for you inside your head when you think of that? And when you're ready, open your eyes, think of something different, clear the screen. Have you had dinner yet? Or are you going to make dinner after the webinar? Or what are you going to do after the webinar? Just have a think about that for me. Okay, so when I said that to you and you thought about that, you just had an internal experience of that. And that is what you focused on. Okay, so is everyone following? If you could just put up your hand for me, I'm just going to check in if there are any questions. My sound is okay. Oh, fantastic. Hi, Raylan. Okay, great. Following, fantastic. Okay, now very good. Thanks, Adrian. Now depending on, so the moment that you heard me say that, depending on the emotional state that you're in at the time, and how is your body? Is your body feeling really great? Are you tired? Are you fighting off a virus? Well, all of these things, your emotional state, your body, and your internal focus, well, it's all going to affect the behavior or result that you have. So the way that you think about it. So consequently, the way that you perceive and now act on the external event. And that example was of me saying something, having you think about it, and you just had an internal experience of that. Okay, so what's really important about all of this, which again is all leading me into values and beliefs, it's all making sense. I want to get into the content in a moment, the juicy stuff, I promise. I think this is the juicy stuff, but anyway. So summary, we're getting 2 million bits of information bombarding our senses every second. And we can only take in 134 bits of information because we delete, we distort, and we generalize. So what this is absolutely saying for us is that our behavior is absolutely dependent upon the internal representation that we have and our external focus. So this is saying that our focus determines our reality. And what you believe to be real for you is going to be real, because it's what you're perceiving out of a possible 2 million bits of information. And so if we were to change values and beliefs for someone, or language, or memories, or decisions, or someone's personality types, just jumped ahead there, then we're going to absolutely have an effect on someone's reality. So if we change someone's beliefs, for example, we're going to change someone's reality, because they're going to start perceiving and start noticing different bits of information per second. Remembering that there's 1,999,866 bits that you're completely disregarding. So what makes you choose those 134 bits? And would you like to choose different information to focus on? Would you like to get different results? So here we go. Let's have a play with one of the filters, or two of the filters rather, which is values and beliefs for somebody. And let's have a look at yours. So we're going to talk about values. Values, I absolutely love this topic, and I find myself sharing this topic at lots of different presentations that I do, because I just think it's really palatable for people to understand. So go ahead and start using this with your clients. I absolutely give you permission to do this. Okay. So values are what are most important to us. Okay. So I want you to have a think about what you've spent money on and what you've spent time on in the last 3 months. And what that's going to give you is a really great idea on what is important to you, because you're going to spend money and you're going to spend time on things that are important to you. Okay? Now, values are what drive us to do what we do. They compel our behavior. They drive our behavior. So values are either what we move towards, or they are what we move away from. So for example, a towards is moving towards pleasure, and away from is moving away from pain. So let me use the example of money, because money is a universal experience. We can all relate to it. If for somebody, we ask them, what do you value about money, or what's important to you about money? And if they were to say, oh, I want money so that I can contribute to the world, and so that I can give it to my family, and so that I can invest more properties, and that I can, do more and have more, right? This is what we would call towards in their language. It's moving towards what they want. And say, for example, we ask somebody else, and they're saying things like, oh, just so I can pay my bills, so I don't have any more credit card debt, so I don't have to stress about money. Well, they're all examples of moving away from what this person doesn't want. They don't want stress, so they're focusing on moving away from stress. They don't want credit card bills, so they're focusing on the credit card debt that they have and the bills that they have to pay. Yeah, so is this all making sense? We're either moving towards or away from. If you're not sure and you need more examples or more description, you just let me know. Okay. Now, values, being that they're a filter, they are going to be largely unconscious until we elicit them, of course. And then, of course, they govern all of our behaviour. Again, they drive us to do what we do. And then, by the way, beliefs are just convictions that we trust as being true. So, just a reminder that beliefs aren't factual. They're actually what we just choose to believe. And this will make a bit more sense in a moment when I get to my next point. And attitudes, by the way, attitudes are our most conscious, our most conscious filter. We tend to be more aware of what our attitudes are. And attitudes, by the way, are just the result of our beliefs and values. So they're the collections of beliefs and values that we have around a particular topic. So I want to show you this. Because we're working with values tonight, beliefs are attached to values. So what this is saying is, the V is for values, B is for beliefs. So when people have values around something, so by the way, a value is, for example, what is important to you in your career? So values in the context of career. And we were to ask someone, what is important to you in your career? And they say things like environment, integrity, the people that I work with. Yeah? So let's just say that this value here on the first picture is that it's important to them that they're working with great people. Okay, so because they have this value, then what's going to happen is they're going to have all of these different beliefs attached to the value. For example, it's important that people have the same values. And another belief could be, it's important that we get along with the people that we work with. Another belief could be, I like to be friends with the people that I work with. It's important to me that I'm friends with the people that I work with. So what it's saying is if we ever change someone's beliefs, we're going to have an effect on someone's values, and the other way around too. If we play with someone's values and we have an effect and we change someone's values, then we're absolutely going to change people's beliefs as well. So it works hand in hand, just so you know. Okay, so it was an amazing sociologist, a guy called Maurice Massey, who shared with us these different periods in our life. So this is where our values come from. You may have heard that in the period, from the ages of 0 to 7, we're like a sponge, and this is called the imprint period, because we absorb everything without judgment. And then we've got the modelling period. I'm just going to breeze through this because I know that I'm taking a bit of time, so I'm just going to breeze through it. Then from the ages of 7 to 14, we actually look outside of our family, and this is when we start to have a bit more judgment. We start choosing, who would we like to be? So this is modelling, where we have a hero. We start modelling people. So thinking about kids these days, who are their models? Who's on TV? Is it like Bart Simpson that they're modelling? And, these are where our values are coming from. So just having a think about what kids are valuing these days because of what they're around. So obviously with social media and all of that changing a lot of the values that we see in society. And then by the time we're 14 and 21, we are definitely choosing the people that we're spending time with. So we kind of let go of having a hero and we start seeing ourselves within society and choosing, well, who do we want to hang around with? Because we start realising that who we hang around with, we become. And then from the age of 21 upwards, we really start building our business persona. So this is where our business values are formed, because we start thinking, well, what's really important to me in business? And what does business really mean to me? So this is all about values in business from the age of 21. So it's just really interesting. These are where values come from. So the family we grew up in, the friends that we hang around with, were we brought up with a particular religion? What schools did we go to? What was the culture that we grew up in and the economics? Were we surrounded by poverty or abundance? And the media, do we watch a lot of media? All of what we notice, we start to pick out from all of these experiences that we have. we start to choose what is important to us. And this is where our values come from. Okay, so step 1, here we're in the process. And feel free to write this down because, again, you can use this with yourself and then go ahead and use this with clients because this is really powerful stuff. So all you need to simply ask is, what is important to you about, and you're going to choose a particular area of life. If you want to do life values in general and you want to find out what drives someone to do what they do generally in life, then you want to do what's important to you about life. So an example where you might use that one is if you do work with someone who, I'm not sure what your scope of practice is, so I'm just going to put it out there. I think that a lot of people on this call have just done their coaching. They haven't done much NLP or anything like that yet. So I want to be careful with your scope of practice. So I'm just trusting who you feel comfortable working with. But let's just say you're working with someone who has like a mild depression. It may be most relevant for you, if they're a bit depressed, to work with, well, what's important to you about life, and really finding out what their life values are, because chances are if they're depressed, they may not be getting their life values fulfilled. You know, what's important to them is not really manifesting in their life. Okay? And then what you want to do, basically with values, is you need to do this in each area of life. It needs to be contextual. So what's going to be really fun is if you allow yourself the time to find out what's important to you in every area of your life. So let's use health and fitness as the examples going forward that I'm going to share with you, because health and fitness is a really relatable one. So we're going to ask someone, what's important to you about health and fitness? And you're going to ask, what else, what else, what else? And there'll come a time when they go, yep, that's it. They would have emptied out about 5 or 6 and then go, yep, can't think of any more. And that's what we would call a buffer. So we go, okay, fine. And we just sit in that silence for a while. And then what happens is you ask the question again. So you'll say, what's important, what else is important to you about career? Health and fitness. So you're looking at all the ones that they've just said, and you just keep asking. And you'll find that they'll come up with at least another 5. It's really amazing. So generally we'll have about at least 10 values. I mean, everyone's so different. You'll get a really great sense of if they've got all their values out. But just bearing in mind that there'll be times when they pause and feel like they've emptied out, but what's happened is they've emptied out to some level and then their buffer just needs to fill up again. Their unconscious mind just needs to have an extra blurt out. Yeah, so it's like, oh yeah, and this and this and this and this. Because what you'll find is the more that you ask, then the more important ones, the ones that are most important to this person, generally come out last, because it's like we take the most important things to us for granted. For example, say if we were doing, like relationships and personal relationships, so like a love, what's important to you about a loving relationship with your partner? And they haven't even said love yet. And I'm thinking, they haven't even said love. And we kind of know from the person that they are that they do value love. They just haven't said it because they're taking it so for granted. It's like, oh, of course love's important to me. It's like, yeah, well, actually, this is the time for you to say it. And you also want to hope that sex comes up for someone in a personal and loving relationship as well. So what's important to you about the area that you're doing, and really allow for them to have time. Keep asking in the times that they're having a break and they're having a think. Don't push it. Just sit in the silence and then ask again. Okay, is that making sense? Because remembering the most important ones generally come out last, and you really want to get all of someone's values out to play for this amazing process to have its total capacity. Okay, so then step 2 is going to say, I appreciate that all of these are important to you, because they are your values. And now it's time for us to put them in a particular order. So we want to ask, which one is the most important to you? Out of all of these that you see, what's most important? Great. And then what's next? What's the next important? and the next, and the next, until you've numbered all of them. So depending on how many values they have, you could have someone who's giving you 20 values, and you'll just say to them, okay, trusting your unconscious mind, go ahead and put them in order to most important to least important. And if you miss one, you can always slot them in and we can keep rewriting them. And this is now your time to put them in order to most important to least important to you. Okay? Now, for your information as coach, the top 6 values of someone is going to be driving this person the most. So if you're going to do this with yourself, pay attention to what is truly driving you in this area of your life. Isn't that interesting? Because, by the way, we only have enough time and space and focus for us to fulfill our top 6. And once we have our top 6 fulfilled, then we can work on the other ones. But our top 6 really drive someone to do what they do. And of course, the top one, the most important value to somebody in that area of their life, we never change that, because that would be like changing a hard drive in a computer. It would change that person's whole personality, like, to say the least. So this is just really interesting. I'm wondering who's following along. Is anyone doing it for themselves? Is anyone asking this to themselves and writing it down? Because if you are, I'm wondering if you're having some breakthroughs and what drives you to do what you're doing. Okay, great. So I've just got a couple more questions for you, and you can write this down and take this into your future, because it is currently, it's 8:30 now, so I do appreciate your time. Just want to give you a little bit more information on what you can do with this. This is the only time that in NLP that we ask the question why. In NLP, we're always curious about how, what are the steps that we take to get the results that we're getting. And so we only ask the question why once, and it just so happens to be in the values elicitation. So for each of the values that we've just got now, we've now put them in order. Oh, yeah, thanks, Raymond. Great question. Question is, in a session, would you only work on one area at a time? Yes, look, you probably would, because it takes a while to get all of the values out, put them in order, and then do this next step. You'd probably be spending about half an hour to an hour on this, and you probably want to make the necessary change work, which I'll talk about as well, in this area of life before you move on and focus on a different one. So that's a really great question. And what a great coaching package you can have, because you'll be spending one session on an area of life, and wouldn't it be cool for someone to be able to do this in all areas of their life? So really great question. You can have more sessions with the person. Okay, so you're going to ask, why is love important to you in a personal relationship? Or I'd like to use the example of money. And I'm going to ask, why is money important to you in your area of career, as the example? Okay, because what I want you to learn is that someone could say something and it sounds like they're focusing on what they want, but what's important is remembering, I'm just going to go to this next slide, I'll put it back, but just remembering what is their actual internal representation when they say it. What is really their focus? So for example, they could tell you, oh, I want money so that I can have the things that I want. And what you want to do is you want to capture what they've just said and ask them, before they move on and say anything else, you want to actually ask them, well, what are the pictures that you just got in your mind? And what was the self-talk that you had? Because, by the way, this person could have just pictured them looking at their bank account and not having the money, or not having any money. Or they could have just pictured a bill and how much the bill is and how they can't afford it. Or they could have pictured the credit card debt that they have. Yeah? So the thing that they say out loud to you is, oh, so I have money to get what I want. But what's important is, what are they actually focusing on? And if they're focusing on the credit card debt they have, if they're focusing on the bills, if that's what comes to their internal mind, then what we say is they're focusing on what they don't want. So remember, their value is actually what we call an away from. Do you remember when I said values can be towards or away from? So we need to pay attention for all of them. So this is why we want to ask now for all of the values, why is it important to you? And then not listen to what they say, but actually stop them and go, what pictures did you just get in your mind? What sounds, feelings, and self-talk did you have? Particularly self-talk, because they can be quite aware of what their self-talk is. And this is when we tell them, okay, well, that's your focus. Paying attention to what you're focusing on. It's not the words that you're saying that are important. It's what you're focusing on inside your mind when you think about that. Because remember, your focus determines your results. What you believe to be real is going to be real. Okay? So what we do is, by the way, just let me know if you need to write something else down and I'll go back. I'm just moving on. Because what you then want to do with the answers that you've now discovered from asking why is that value important to you, you may need to ask them, and you can say, ask your unconscious mind, what percentage of this value, so now telling me why it's important to you, what do you think is the percentage that you're focusing on towards what you want, and the percentage that your focus is away from? So this is asking what they feel their focus is. So they might say, oh yeah, I just thought of the credit card debt, and I've just thought of the bills I've had to pay, and I've just thought how, I can't get what I want. And so, my percentage, I would say, is about 70% away from. Because there are things that I focus on that I do want more of, but that's only about 30%. And so for each value that you've elicited, you're going to have a percentage on their focus. And are they focusing on what they want or what they don't want? And then it's going to be time for you to clear all of the away froms. Then you have something to work with. Because if you can clear this person's away froms, then they're going to have more consistent results. And they're going to actually manifest in their life what they want. Yeah, can you start to see how this is really important? And you can ask, you can get straight to the point and just ask them, what limiting belief do you need to clear in order for that value to be 100% towards what you want? So I know it says here towards. You might want to write there towards what you want. And it might be, it might be the belief that I can't make what I need to. I can't make what I need to have what I want. Oh, isn't that interesting? And so at the bottom of this slide here it says, what you would say back is, okay, so asking your unconscious mind, if we were to clear the belief that you don't have the ability to make what you want, you feel that you can't make what you want, then that value be, well, 100% towards? Yeah. And they'll go, yeah, yeah. And then you have something to work with, and you can clear that limiting belief. Yeah, that they can't have what they want. They can't earn what they want. And just finishing off, by the way, there is a technique that allows you to change someone's order of what's most important to them. Excuse me. I just have some water. Okay, so it is possible, for example, in someone's career, imagine if money was the least important thing to them, or it was like number 10 in their hierarchy. Well, what we would say is this person wouldn't be making much money in their career because it's not that important to them. So what we learn in Master Prac, what we can do in NLP with some modalities, so if you have done NLP practitioner, then all you need to do is elicit the submodalities of the value that sits on top of the one where you want to put it. Say, for example, money is currently at 10 and you want to make it number 5 because you're remembering that the top 6 values in an area drives this person to do what they do. So in order for someone to make money, what I'm saying is money needs to be in your top 6 in the area of career. How cool is this, right? It's making sense. So for those who've done prac, just remembering your submodalities, all you would need to do is elicit the submodalities of number 4. So when you think about that value, do you have a picture? good? Is it black and white or colours? Near or far? Is it bright or dim? What's the location? What's the size? Are there any sounds that are important? Are there any feelings that are important? Yeah, so remember your submodalities checklist. And you just simply do a mapping across, just like you do in like to dislike. You'll then map across the submodalities of whatever that value is currently into the submodalities of number 4. And what will happen is the person will start valuing money at number 5 because you've just mapped it across into the submodalities of 4. Okay? So apologies to those who haven't done NLP prac and that didn't make any sense. I do know that there are some NLP practitioners on the line here. And I just wanted to point out that it is possible. So just talk to a friend who has done prac so that you know if this comes up with a client and it's really important for you to help them make change, well, it's absolutely possible for you to do that. Wonderful. That's what I wanted to share with you. And again, it's the same tip that I had last week, but I always think it bears repeating. You know, going out there and helping other people, it's not about you. It's not about the fact that you might not have your website perfect or the right business cards, or you might not even know what your specialty or your niche is. It doesn't matter. I know Doc wants you to get a niche, but don't stop that. Don't let that stop you from actually going out there and getting started, because this keeps people that need your help. So it's been my absolute pleasure, again, to share this evening with you. You have a wonderful rest of your evening. Thanks, everybody. Good night. If you have any questions, please email them to Glenn, and he'll pass them on to me. Thanks, everybody.